Right then.
I'm gonna make it.
Chapter 1. Bang on the door, Silly Billy. Calm out. Have you ever met Silly Billy?
Yeah.
No. Well, you probably have a good friend
Yeah.
just like him. Someone who wears odd socks or sunglasses when the sun isn't shining. Someone who eats chips and ice cream at the same time. Someone who makes everyone laugh but not always on purpose. Who else lives in Silly Billy's house, number 25 Collingwood Road?
Going to
George?
that house.
Well, there's his mum, Mrs. Billy, who works at the nurse at Woki Health Centre. There's Dad, Mr. Billy. George! His dad, Mr. Billy, who works at the caretaker at Woki College, Silly Billy School, who can sometimes be embarrassing.
No.
And then there's the little sister, Chanel.
No.
Chanel thinks Silly Billy is brilliant, even when he's being silly.
Mama.
Oh, we mustn't forget about Silly Billy's pets. They are very important members of Billy's family. His dog is a dog.
Yeah.
He thinks that Silly Billy's silliness is very tiring. Frankie Shadow is a cat, sorry. He doesn't think at all.
He just thinks like.
Yeah.
He just does that.
This is a story about the time Silly Billy had a new watch. Silly Billy had chosen his watch from the catalogue. He saved up his birthday money and sent off for it. Then one morning, a delivery van brought a big parcel.
Oh, yes.
In the middle of the great big parcel was a beautiful little box. In the beautiful little box lay Silly Billy's fantastic watch. Wow, said Silly Billy. It was even better than in the catalogue. George, look. It was a very special watch, and it could do everything. It had its own alarm with a choice of alarm calls.
It can play games.
No. To wake up Silly Billy in the morning. It could be used as a stopwatch. It could work underwater. It could do sums and all sorts of clever things. It could even tell you what time it was in other parts of the world.
Like this watch.
Yeah. Sit down.
Okay.
The trouble was, Silly Billy wasn't very good at telling the time in his own part of the world. This could be sometimes a problem.
It's 9:07.
Okay, can you read this bit down?
Oh, no.
What up?
I can't.
Chapter 2.
What the?
You can help me.
Oh, no, don't run into it.
On cold mornings, Silly Billy found it hard to get up. He preferred to stay in his nice warm bed. Every day the whole family rushed around before school. Georgie? Look. Oh, Silly Billy, said Mrs. Billy. Why won't you get up earlier? It would be so nice not to rush around for once. Faith?
Yeah.
Every day Mr. Billy took Silly Billy in the car with him to Woki Primary. Oh, Silly Billy, said Mr. Billy. Why can't you be ready to leave on time for once? It would be so nice to get to school before the bell goes. Wouldn't it? Trey. All right, said Silly Billy. Can do. I'll set my alarm on my new watch. Your watch is really brilliant, Silly Billy, said Chanel. At bedtime, Silly Billy set his watch. He waved his wrist around. Georgie, are you listening? He tapped his watch face. He pushed a few buttons. That should fix it, said Silly Billy. Tomorrow morning I'll be ready before any of you. He set the alarm for 7 o'clock, or so he thought. Whee! Shrieked the referee's whistle. Whee! Except it wasn't the referee's whistle, it was the alarm on Silly Billy's fantastic watch. Silly Billy was still half asleep. He waved his wrist around. He bashed the watch face. He frantically pushed a few buttons. At last, the whistling alarm stopped. Silly Billy sat up. That's funny, he thought. It's still dark. He looked hard at his watch. Oi! The long hand had pointed straight up, but the short hand was still pointing at 6. Silly Billy. Did Silly Billy turn over and go back to sleep? No, he didn't. Oh, well, he said to himself. Now I'm awake. I think I'll have some breakfast. He climbed out of bed. Brrr, it was cold. Silly Billy shivered in his pajamas. Oh. He couldn't see his dressing gown. Read this one first. So he pulled his school sweatshirt on over his pajama top, but it was still cold. Silly Billy pulled his trousers on over his pajama tops. Then he stepped into his slippers and crept downstairs. You ready for chapter 3?
Yes!
Chapter 3. Silly Billy pushed open the kitchen door. Boss Dog the dog came over and sniffed him. It's alright, Boss Dog, said Silly Billy. It's only me. I'm not a burglar. Who just talked to him? Who was Silly Billy just talking to? You aren't even listening. Hedgehog sighed and went back to the basket for another snooze. Now, for some cereal, said Silly Billy. There was a big pack of Wheat Crunchies, Silly Billy's favourite. Woof, whimpered Boss Dog. All right, Boss Dog, said Silly Billy, and fetched a pack of doggy treats. He put them on the table. Milk, thought Silly Billy. As he was getting the milk out of the fridge, he spotted a bottle of fizzy drink.
Oh, yummy. I'll eat that.
I'm never allowed fizzy drinks for breakfast, thought Silly Billy. I'll have to have it now while no one's around, and I'll give it a good shake and make it extra fizzy. He shook the bottle. Then he opened the bottle. Oh no! Fizz squirted everywhere. Silly Billy, silly Billy. Silly Billy wiped himself down and carried on with his breakfast. Bowl and spoon, he remembered. He put them on the table. Toast, thought Silly Billy, and put 2 pieces of bread in the toaster. And honey and marmite.
Honey and marmite, I like that.
Whimpered Boss Dog more urgently. He wanted some those biscuits now. All right, Boss Dog. Hey, the story. All right, Boss Dog, Silly Billy said crossly, frowning at the dog instead of looking at the label on the jar. It said pickle. Boss Dog wagged his tail and snuffed happily as Silly Billy poured some Wheat Crunchies into his bowl. And then Silly Billy was very silly. He took some doggy treats into his own bowl and poured the milk on them. Ching! Before Silly Billy had time to tuck in, the toast popped up. So Silly Billy put the toast on the plate, spread the butter on the toast, and then spread pickle on it.
Pickle.
I'm hungry, said Silly Billy, and plugged his spoon into the bowl. Pfft. Silly Billy was chewing on dog biscuits. Silly Billy. Silly Billy put his bowl down for Boss Dog. Never mind, he thought. I've got a nice piece of toast and marmite to eat. He took a large bite. Yuck, said Silly Billy. He tipped the toast into the rubbish. And I was so hungry, he said. He saw a banana sitting on the fruit bowl and ate that. You can't go far without a banana. George, come sit here. Chapter 4. Okay, no one wants to listen to us. I'll stop reading, eh?
I want to read. I want to listen.
Well, sit down. Chapter 4. It was still 6:30. No one else was up yet. I know, Silly Billy, said Silly Billy. I'll do my own packed lunch today to make up for having horrible breakfast. He found his yellow lunchbox. Mum had already put an apple and some chocolate biscuits in there. Silly Billy knew that he was going to have know what he was going to have in his packed lunch today. Something he'd never ever had. Ice cream.
Sounds like faith.
Silly Billy opened the freezer. There was his favourite chocolate cookie ice cream. Why doesn't Mum ever give me this? Wondered Silly Billy, spooning cream into a sandwich bag. Then he saw a big bag of moist flavoured food of all. His most favourite food of all. Chips. Brilliant, said Silly Billy, and put a whole handful of frozen chips into his lunchbox. They'll be unfrozen by lunchtime, he thought. Silly Billy happily closed the lid of his yellow lunchbox. Snap! And he had the perfect lunch inside.
Whoa, that's Faith's favourite lunch.
Silly Billy could hear Mum and Dad and Chanel getting up. Wouldn't Mum be pleased? Silly Billy thought all of the things he usually had to do before school in the morning. He had to read to Mum or Dad from his reading book. He had to find something for show and tell. He had to find his PE kit on the days of PE. He had to practice the recorder. Chanel came walking downstairs while Silly Billy was practicing his recorder. Doodle-doot. Play blah 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 black sheep for me, said Chanel. Silly Billy played blah blah black sheep. Play Mary Had a Little Lamb, said Chanel. Silly Billy played Mary Had a Little Lamb. Chanel knew all the words. What would I take for show and tell? Chanel asked Silly Billy. You should take an animal, said Chanel dreamily. Now that's a good idea, said Silly Billy. He picked up his school bag and went out into the garden. Frankie Shadow, he called. Frankie, how would you like to come to school with me? Billy put his comfortable straw in his bag. He put Frankie's water bowl in his bag and he put a handful of cat food in his bag. And then he put Frankie in his bag. Frankie sighed and went back to sleep. Silly Billy called Mrs. Billy. You've got a good time to read me this morning. Find a reading book. Okay, what did you just put in his bag then, Faith?
A reading book.
No.
His lunchbox.
No.
I was listening.
You weren't listening, obviously. His cat.
Ice cream.
He just put his cat in his bag.
What the?
Do you know what he put in his bag, Georgie? His cat. And some straw.
No, you're wrong, Daddy. It was a rabbit.
Look.
That's a cat.
Look.
No, it's a cat.
Look.
He's put a cat in his bag.
No, that's a rabbit.
Oh, it's a cat. It looks like a rabbit, but it's a cat.
Look.
And then he put the cat in his bag. Cat sighed and went back to sleep. Silly Billy called Mrs. Billy. You've got time to read me this morning? Find your reading book. Silly Billy looked for his reading book. There it is, cried Silly Billy at last, and sat down for Mrs. Billy to read. It was an exciting story, and Silly Billy read it right to the end. Mr. Billy listened to the story too.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Read right to the end. Then he looked at the clock. Goodness me, is it that time? Come on, Silly Billy. We need to be off. I've got my lunch, said Silly Billy. I've got something for show and tell. He pointed at his bag, which looked like a large and lumpy, and moved a little. And I've got my reading book. It's PE today, asked Miss Billy. Yes, I nearly forgot, said Silly Billy. There was 2 carry bags hanging on the peg. Silly Billy grabbed the one with the PE kit in it. At least he thought it was his PE kit. Oh. He put on his coat and his shoes and off to school he went with his dad. But Silly Billy had forgotten about something else. Chapter 5. Silly Billy put his lunchbox on the windowsill with the other lunchboxes, and the sun shining through the window. He hung up his coat and his PE kit and then went to the classroom.
George.
Who's got something for show and tell this morning? Asked Mrs. Sweet, the teacher, once the children had settled. I have, said Silly Billy, quick as a flash. He opened his bag, out popped Frankie Shadow. Hippity hoppity, Frankie Shadow all around the classroom. Thank you. Just sit down. Silly Billy, exclaimed Mrs. Sweet. We'll have to all call the caretaker at once. Silly Billy blushed. He wasn't looking forward to his dad, the caretaker, seeing Frankie Shadow one bit.
You go and sit down and listen to the story.
Mr. Billy arrived and took Frankie Shadow from Silly Billy. Silly Billy, he said. It wasn't very kind to take Frankie to school. I made sure he was comfortable, said Silly Billy. I'll take the rabbit home at once. I'll take the cat home at once, said Mr. Billy to Mrs. Sweet. And by the way, I noticed that someone's lunchbox was dripping as I came by. I wonder what that could be, said Mrs. Sweet. I'll fetch it, said Mr. Billy. Miss Sweet held up the yellow lunchbox. Silly Billy recognised it straight away. He didn't say anything. He felt too silly. Mrs. Sweet opened the lunchbox and saw it was full of melted ice cream and raw, soggy biscuits. Chips, sorry. I know whose lunchbox that is, said Mr. Billy. Silly Billy. I'll sort out a proper packed lunch when I take the cat home, said Mr. Billy. Never mind.
That's not a cat.
That looks like a cat.
No, it doesn't.
Never mind, Silly Billy, said Miss Sweet. It's time to change for PE now. We're going outside to practice for sports day. Hold on, finish the book. Finish the book.
It's a good story.
Silly Billy and his friends went to change into their PE kit. Silly Billy put his hand in his shoe bag, but instead of his trainers, he pulled out a pair of pink ballet shoes. And then instead of his t-shirt, pulled out a pink leotard. And next Instead of shorts, he pulled out a pink tutu. Poor Silly Billy had taken Chanel's bag instead of his own. Never mind, Silly Billy, said Miss Sweet. She was feeling quite sorry for Silly Billy. I'm sure we can find you something to wear. Take off your sweatshirt and your trousers while I look in the cupboard. So Silly Billy took off his sweatshirt and his trousers. Everybody gasped. And then everyone laughed, even Silly Billy. He was wearing pajamas. Climb down, everyone, said Miss Sweet, turning away from the cupboard. I've found some spare kit for Silly Billy, but unfortunately I can't find the stopwatch for our races. Then she saw Silly Billy. Goodness, Silly Billy, she said, whatever happened to you today? It all started because of my fantastic watch, said Silly Billy.
From the phone.
Fantastic watch, said Silly Billy. Fantastic watch, questioned Mrs. Sweet. Does it have a stopwatch? Of course, said Silly Billy proudly. You've saved the day, Silly Billy, said Miss Sweet.
Yeah.
Then Mr. Billy arrived back at with Silly Billy's lunchbox with a fresh lunch in it. He also had Silly Billy's PE kit. Silly Billy ran off to change. When he came back,
You just wait.
he waved his wrist around.
You listen to the end of the story.
He tapped the watch face. He pushed a few buttons. He handed his fantastic stopwatch to Miss Sweet, and he went to join in the races. He even won 2. That's it.
Okay. I'll show them the.
No.
That is not a cat. That is not a cat. There.
It's a rabbit.
You said it was a cat.
It is a cat.
You said it was a
I
cat.
don't have a rabbit, I only have a cat.
You said it was a cat.
I think.
What the-